Hi folks, thanks for tuning in to Mindshift today. Today we're welcoming Russell Brand on our show. In the last decades, trust has completely evaporated from our public life. Nobody believes the word of politicians, corporate leaders, bankers, religious figures. They've basically all been exposed as total frauds. When we think about this corruption of our civic life, I think public artists are stepping into a crucial political function. Somebody who has 1 million of followers on Twitter or Facebook, they can speak directly to their fans. They can create their own media, build their own network, and spread all kinds of new ideas. So you have artists like Russell Brand and also Eve Ensler, who's with us today, are kind of at the cutting edge of culture right now. They have the opportunity to change the operating system of our culture by focusing the collective attention on what they believe is important and what needs to be done for the future. Hello, everybody. Today we're on Gaia TV's Mindshift, where we'll be speaking about the upcoming political, social, spiritual, sexual revolution with a strong proponent and advocate of transformation, and that is our special guest, Russell Brand. He's a comedian, a writer, and actor, touring the world with his one-man show, The Messiah Complex, so please welcome him here. Thank you.
Born in Essex, England, Russell Brand is an acclaimed comedian, actor, and author. His movie credits include Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Get Him to the Greek, and Despicable Me. And his memoir, My Bookie Wook, sold over 600,000 copies to date. He is currently on a sold-out world tour of his one-man show, The Messiah Complex.
We're here, Russell Brand, consciousness inhabiting a body, eh?
That's currently what I am.
Nice. How is that feeling these days?
I feel all right. I mean, I'm not yet ready to become a disembodied consciousness, although we don't truly understand the nature of consciousness. Perhaps a little bit of my consciousness is in fact disembodied. We don't fully know yet.
I saw you recently disembody the consciousness of some MSNBC anchor people.
I was doing that out of love.
Did they take it with the full merit of compassion with which it was engendered?
I don't know, Daniel. I just remember being there thinking, these people are not affording me the most basic courtesies, and I found that amusing.
Let's talk a little bit about revolution.
All right.
So you recently contacted me to do a little writing about revolution. It's a subject that's on your mind. What are your thoughts about it? Do we need one?
Yeah.
Outer, political, inner, spiritual?
All of those. That's too succinct, isn't it? Because the dynamic of the show must be conversational. If I think, right, I'm going to just try and answer in binary. 01, 110, 00111. I think that, yeah, and I think there has to be all of them. It's you, in fact, that turned me on to that, Buckminster Fuller fella.
Yeah.
And he goes, don't he, that you've got to look at the whole thing, the whole reality, the maximum positive impact for the 100% of humanity without ecological damage as soon as possible.
So how are we going to do that?
I think everyone's got to be really nice. I think start off with that. I suppose what's happened is, this is what I believe in, mate, is that certain cultural narratives are promoted that are beneficial only to elites. These cultural narratives are not true. We need to realign the cultural narratives that we promote. So if there are, the only reality that is relevant is we have this planet. There are this many people on the planet. There are these resources. Any system that is in conflict with the even distribution of the resources to the people is a disingenuous and illusory system. All these things are just ideas. America, just an idea. England, just an idea. Karate, just an idea. Wednesday, just an idea.
What about reptilian overlord aliens?
Definite real thing. I mean, I don't know about the old reptilian overlord aliens. On some level, they are just a sort of a frequency, a vibration like us. And I try not to worry too much about the reptilian overlords because in case they're watching, and I am hoping to get a part-time job in the Illuminati. On the weekends.
What do you see your role with the Illuminati? What kind of work would you like to do with them?
I'd basically just like to do massage for the Illuminati. Just keep the Illuminati upper echelons relaxed when they're having those conferences with their hoods up. No, I mean, I think for me, mate, I think that all we have to do is not worry too much about that. That's just iconography and narrative data. The important data is imperceptible to us, as you know, because loads of this stuff I got off of you. I don't know why I'm telling you back again. You might as well be talking about my haircut. Like, is that because our sense, the realm of the senses is so limited, we can only see between infrared light and ultraviolet light, we can only hear a limited decibel range, we think reality is what we can apportion through the limited instruments of the senses. But reality is, of course, far beyond that. Spiritual data, we don't have the correct instruments to receive it, and we live primarily in the realm of the senses. We live in the unevolved
I feel like I finally
part.
got you talking again.
There we go, I'm off now, man. The one-word answers are fucked off, ain't they? Right, so like, we live in a, when you talk about, see, in Christian myth, these ideas are quite evident. When we talk about the what Campbell said, what is the relevance of the resurrection of Christ, some guy 2,000 years ago, if we are not constantly resurrected into the moment anew? I think what Christianity is referring to with this resurrection myth is that the dead human ape has fulfilled its potential. The dead human ape has not evolved for the last 10,000 years. These are the achievements of the dead human ape. Now we must transform, become enlightened, so that we can access the next realm of consciousness necessary for our evolution.
Right, which also involves sharing the resources equitably so the
yeah.
whole planet can partake in the abundance that's available.
We've got to let go of temporary, transient ideas like individualism. The nature of monotheistic faiths, these dead desert religions, is to encode us with the idea that individualism is more important than paganism, ideologies that integrally relate us to the earth, so that we know that we are integrally, indefatigably related to our environment, and we live in the service of our environment, because self is a temporal illusion.
So how do we make that jump in tangible and practical terms?
Well, some people like you just go off to the jungle and eat a bunch of plants. People like me, have to think. I have to use the old nut. I have to give the noggin a flogging. I just think and meditate on the holy names of God. We are all one. So that's been helping me out.
What are some of those holy names?
Krishna, Satnam, the nickname of God, they say. But it can be the Lord's Prayer. Like Joseph Campbell, who I've loved loads, says, all religions are true in that the metaphor is true. The metaphor is true, that we are all one, that there is a system for attaining this oneness that has been scripturally designated.
You ever hear this guy, Slavoj Žižek?
Yeah, I hear that, Zizek.
Zizek, he has that whole idea that...
He's a troublemaker.
He's
a rabble-rouser.
That New Age Asiatic thought has become the underlying ideology of postmodern, post-industrial capitalism, because it allows people to participate in the system that's still about domination and aggression while having this inner sense of detachment.
Yeah, I think that's right, but I don't think that's a particularly new thing. These ideas rose up at the time with that Madame Bovary, didn't they? In a time of Jung, mysticism normally happens every time a bit of fin de siècle terror kicks in. What we need to do now is to recognise that these spiritual principles have political ramifications, aka socialism. So, these things have to be materialised and politicised. Yeah, it's no good me being sat around covered in daft tattoos about Jesus and Buddha, and then going off and wanking in the back of a limo. Although that's exactly what I'm doing when I leave here. But the fact is that these principles need to be materialised. Initially, materialised.
Okay, so that's the question again: is how what do you see? Because there seems to be there's always that gap. Like we see the enlightenment realized state that we'd like everybody to be in, and then we have this kind of mess, this quandary that we're in right now. So how do we make those little bridging steps?
I think we attain it within ourselves initially, and we communicate these ideas on a personal level. Spirituality, I can get, as you've just heard, I can be very verbose and loquacious on the topic, but really it just means be nice. It ain't hard, just be nice. You meet a homeless person, be nice. You get into a cab, be nice to the person. Don't see yourself as adversarial. Then the revolution has already occurred. People fear Armageddon, don't they? People fear the apocalypse, don't they? But for some, Armageddon has already occurred. The homeless people that walk our streets live already in a post-apocalyptic world. Armageddon will surely come for each of us, our own personal Armageddon, when each of us die. Isn't it redundant whether everyone simultaneously dies if each of us will individually die? Regardless, Armageddon is coming. So whilst these cataclysmic principles apply on the individual level...
people who think we might be able to extend the human lifespan through biotechnology, merging with machines.
Yeah, that's all cool, man. But what I'm saying is that what we have to do is individually reach our own personal alignment. We have to do the principles are all there. You know this. The principles are already there. We achieve detachment through meditation. We no longer then we are no once we can achieve enlightenment, and once we put our satisfaction beyond our individual needs, we are no longer malleable by the pre-existing system. The system requires us to be selfish little consumerist pods. Once we go, oh, I ain't that bothered about that, it's easier for me because I've been famous now, I know that's boring. I've been rich now, I know that's boring. I fuck loads of people now, I know that's boring. I took loads of drugs now, no, that's boring. So all that's left is spiritual enlightenment. That's all that's left.
What's the political dimension of like love and sexuality?
What is what, mate?
What's the political dimension of love and sexuality?
Well, I don't think I'm the man to ask, because my previous in that area has not been that good. It's like you don't ask Charles Manson how to run Neighbourhood Watch.
Oh, just let him get into the hills.
Is that an area where you're trying to like up your game?
Yeah, I'm up in it. Yeah, for me, I've got to realise that like I am not a person who can live in will or desire. I have to learn to look only within myself for happiness. I can't let this guy run the show anymore. He's had a good innings.
What do you see your trajectory now? I mean, here you have this massive fame, this huge following, you're like a huge public artist. Like, how do you then use that for these goals that you're discussing?
Someone told me ages ago, and I should have just listened to him then. I met this Swami, he goes, should I become a monk? He went, no. Like he didn't want me in the monk gang. Like he said, you'll ruin it for the rest of us. But like, he goes, use what you have for God. Dedicate yourself to God. You know, we don't have to worry about God, just means higher thing, difficult for us to comprehend and ascertain with our limited sensory realm. We cannot understand the ocean of reality in the teacup of the mind. Probably Rumi. So what I think is if there's something you're good at, doing jokes or whatever, do them jokes for God. You know?
What's your best evidence for the existence of God?
Oh, well, I feel like, sometimes I feel the gentle, playful spirit of God in nature. Sometimes I feel it within myself in quiet. For me, remember, it's a difficult concept. For me, it is life, it is consciousness. Consciousness itself is God. You cannot allow consciousness to become refracted into an abstract idea such as individualism. Individualism is a material, sensorial, biological notion which we can conquer through the expansion of consciousness. Why live on this dimension? Why live only on this frequency once we know other frequencies exist? We have an obligation for the evolution of our species to continue to pioneer. This is the country of the pioneer.
So do you feel that you're in the running to be a messiah?
Yep! Only the true Messiah would deny his Messiah. No, I ain't bothered. I'm just going to be what I am, and that's that. Because once it goes in other people's brains, they can do what the fuck they like with it. I'm just going to be doing what I'm doing.
Nice one.
But I'm ready.
Yeah. Hey, well, let's bring Eve Ensler on to have a brief three-way dialogue.
We're having a freeway.
Yeah,
I knew this day would come.
Yeah.
Author of the Vagina Monologues, Eve Ensler is an American playwright, performer, feminist, and activist. Her current book, In the Body of the World, has been regarded as an unforgettable, raw, and powerful story by the New York Times Book Review. She is the creator of V-Day, a global activist movement to stop violence against women. The movement to date has raised over $80 million and has funded over 12,000 community-based anti-violence programs and safe houses in the Congo, Haiti, Kenya, South Dakota, Egypt, and Iraq, providing women sanctuary from abuse, genital mutilation, and honor killing. She was born in New York City and in 1999 was awarded the Guggenheim Fellowship Award in playwriting.
Well, this is fun for me. I got to introduce two extremely extraordinary human beings to each other. Eve, meet Russell. Russell, meet Eve.
Hello!
Hello. So happy to meet you.
I'm happy to meet you. You seem
No,
so
really.
nice and kind and a bit sexy.
Thank you. Oh, thanks.
So we were talking beforehand about kind of, cultural programming, which we kind of discussed a little bit, and and how kind of in a way we could use cultural engineering to bring about kind of a transformation, which I guess you've been doing. Maybe you want to tell Russell a little bit about your perspective on that.
Well, I like what you were talking about, getting out of the individualism thing and the consumerism thing, and beginning to see ourselves as artists and the creators of our destiny. I think so much of what is happening is the creating of this passive culture where people are just staring up at a screen or being just consuming and transacting, as opposed to seeing themselves as transformers of their own destiny. And I just really am interested now in all the ways we create energetic shifts in helping people become transformers of the world. And so we are not, and I love what you were saying about being nice. Like, how do we generate kindness? How do we generate images of kindness and the possibility of kindness? You know, so much of the culture that exists is about perpetrating cynical ideas of who human beings are, you know, particularly television.
Yeah, it is. Because I see that Darwin, origin of species, survival of the fittest and all that, and social Darwinism, those ideas that were leapt upon a century ago, in that actual book, Origin of Species, he was kept going, but most animals, they're a lovely cuddly bunch, and they're always being nice to each other. They that bit off. It weren't a convenient message.
It was the bulk of the book. The survival of the species was only a tiny little bit of the book, you know?
So they just look for information that's conveniently conveys a pre-existing narrative, then bombard us with that narrative till we can't think nothing else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what if we just started saying that people... another Terence McKenna thing, he says this really interesting thing about the fall, right? That the whole idea of the fall, that people are fallen. Who made that up? Maybe we're rising, maybe we're not fallen, but that just keeps everybody in their place believing they're fallen people, you know? And I think if we actually kind of pulled out from that thinking and saw, just really reframed who we are and reconceived who we are, like actually we're rising people, not fallen people, that we can create. And I love what you said about the evolution of the next consciousness, that we're just here to push up to the next place that we need to go, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But tell me more on how, like Russell, how can we accomplish that? You mentioned socialism before. I was kind of curious. Do you think that the next phase of human society resembles a kind of socialist model? Like one of my favorite essays is Oscar Wilde's essay on socialism.
I ain't read that.
Oh, you got to read it. I'll send it to you. It's
check
awesome.
it out.
But yeah, so he argues that basically, like, the artist has been the exemplary human individual, has shown how individuality can really flourish. But often artists in the past were ones who had like independent means or wealth. They had the time to really cultivate themselves, which most people don't have. And then you would actually need something like socialism so that everybody had their ability to cultivate their own unique individuality.
Yeah. You know, socialism got a bad rap in your country because the old communism and McCarthyism and whatnot. But communism only means sharing. You tell children to do it. And the other thing is that people go, but what about Russia though? You know, that weren't very nice. They did a gulag. Or what about China? Little girls, foot binding, and things like that. That's added after. With my iPad, I use it a lot to look at pornography. That ain't Steve Jobs' fucking fault. It's up to me what you do with a system. If a system deployed correctly can create a great deal of social benevolence.
My guess is she would have a potentially negative perspective around the whole pornographic complex.
Pornography is bad.
I like more talking about the systems though, because I think you're absolutely right. It's like who gets hold of socialistic concepts determines what happens with them, right?
Well, even Marx said that communism would never work in a kind of developing country. That would only work in a first world country like the US. So it would almost be like if there was a financial cratering in the US or the UK, it would be our first opportunity to see if that model actually happened.
There's been a massive, great big financial catering. And I suppose the reason this idea needs to be derided and attacked so vociferously is because of its potential applicability. But that's the reason that people have to go, don't ever do communism, will you? Why? Oh, because then we'd have to give up all of our money.
Absolutely, you'd have to share it and spread it around so everybody lives well.
I mean, Oscar Wilde said that we have to get rid of private property ultimately for the sake of the rich. You know?
All my stuff.
Oh, exactly, because it creates all these attachments. I mean, how would you feel if you did have to give up all the stuff?
Initially a bit annoyed, but ultimately grateful.
Yeah. I think everyone, because I think things confuse people. I don't know about you, but when I go to the store and I look at all the choices, I just get really freaked out. I don't know what to buy. When you go to stores in countries that don't have so many choices, you go and you get salt and you buy the salt and they're done with salt. You don't spend your day thinking about which salt.
Obviously, most of the countries in the world are dying to achieve the level of affluence and comfort that we've attained, in the U.S., right? So how do you talk to those people? That would be maybe a job for artists as cultural engineers to kind of talk to the people of the world and suggest that there's another step beyond just material accumulation, or what do you think?
I suppose we need to popularize different ideas. I mean, the reason that I dress in this way, the reason that I regard material possessions as valuable is because my entire life I've been subject to messages that told me that this was precisely the truth, that they generate initially a sense of fear and a sense of absence within the self, a sense of fear and absence which needs to be fulfilled and addressed. They then tell you that the solution to this fear is to engage in consumerism and to raise your self-esteem comparatively through through symbols in like the media. This is what will make you happy. This is what will make you happy. You know, like the products used to be sold on the basis of utility. You have feet, you need shoes. Then after the brilliant and evil Edward de Bonet's nephew of Freud said that the way they used to sell people is on a basis of not of utility and need, but on the basis it will make them feel better. Then the way that products became marketed was, buy these shoes, you will feel cool. This is a significant difference, because otherwise once people own shoes, they've got shoes. Once people own a washing machine, they've got a washing machine. We need to be trapped in a cycle of fear and need so that we remain docile and malleable. Now, like, obviously I have not managed to avoid this system. I'm completely a product of it. But I recognise that these things, scarf, wonderful though it is, shoes, very jazzy, very sexy, trinkets and items, temporarily beguiling, they are ultimately meaningless. We all know this, we already know everything. The last words of the Bhagavad Gita are, I remember. We already know everything. So I think we just have to popularise a different message. People are ready now. Luckily, we're in a situation where most people are pretty pissed off with everything. So it's time for transition.
I also think connected to that is what makes you happy and what is enough. What makes you happy and what is enough? And I think most people don't ask themselves that question. You know, I spent this summer in southern Italy, where people have enough. They don't have a lot, but they have enough, and they're actually really happy. And the pleasures are such different pleasures. They're like moonbathing, and they're dancing at night, and they're setting out incredible lanterns into the sky, and people dance under them. Oh. And there's pleasure. It's deep pleasure that's rooted in the country, in the land, and I think part of it is we don't even know what gives us pleasure anymore. We don't. We're so busy consuming and getting the next thing.
Moonbathing?
I did like moonbathing as a concept.
Moonbathing is amazing.
We're all in the moon.
No,
bathing.
Moonbathing is amazing.
I bet it is amazing.
No,
I bet it's better than X Factor after you get used to it.
Yeah.
After you think, has the moon got a relative that recently got cancer? Now I can really back it. Because when you watch these reality TVs, there's a formulaic way of presenting the information. If you see one of the contestants is, this person's recently overcome a tragedy, that means that you are meant to align yourself with that particular contestant. That is the way that narrative is built, so that you find the X Factor more entertaining than you otherwise would, because it is, in fact, as you know, in your heart, shit. Although, if you start watching it, you will become engaged, like pornography. Best not to start.
That's what Terence McKenna says. Unplug. Don't go in. Because once you go in, you're in. It just begins to take you down. You know, and I also think...
heroin.
But it is heroin. It is heroin.
Once you start,
absolutely.
You think, I'd love some more now.
Exactly.
I feel relaxed.
Absolutely.
Have a bit more. Oh, I'm more relaxed. More. Well, not so relaxed now.
But I also think it feeds on itself. Like, the more you go in, it depresses you. It makes you feel bad about yourself. You're no one, you're nothing. Then you get more, and you keep getting further and further and further down the hole. But if you go, all right, I'm refusing that. I actually think I am okay. I am somebody. I exist. What matters to me is real. What happens to me is real. It matters. Yeah, it has value. Then you begin to chart a different course. But it's very hard if you're plugged into that system, because it's really powerful.
Yeah, and they don't like it when you're defiant. If you go, I don't really want none of your stuff now, they go, it's really good, our stuff. And you go, no, still don't want it. We will kill you.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, I'll have some of the stuff.
Well, if that doesn't satisfy our real needs, I mean, what does? I mean, there's a whole idea from like Joseph Chilton Pearce, right? That you know, ultimately there's a human need for like transcendence or like initiatory experience, like something that, you know, that's why people seek out ayahuasca and shamanic experience and so on. I mean, is that a possible future direction? I mean, do you find that through meditation? You encounter those types of...
I've got no choice, have I? Because I've got a bit of the old drug problem, and I'm in abstinence-based recovery. So for me, but I agree that you're right. I think a certain percentage of the population probably needs transcendent experiences. I mean, I don't know how early societies were formalised, tribal societies, but I don't imagine everyone in the village was a witch doctor, necking bunches of plants and having crazy visions, because who's going to cut the crops and look after all the cooking and everything. But some people have got to have transcendent experiences so they can report back like, oh, you think that this is all real. Don't worry, it's not. Relax. You make a pot. You do some cooking. All right, cool. Everyone can't be the shaman, otherwise who's going to wash up?
But also, what are transcendent experiences? To me, and I'm in the same boat as you, having been off drugs and in alcohol for a long time.
It's hard, isn't it?
Oh yeah, really hard. But it's been alive already. So, but one of the things I feel for me is transcendence comes through connection. You know, it's really simple. It's like so much of my life, I was so afraid to connect to this body, to this being, and to other people, because my heart was just too vulnerable. And now I feel like, okay, connection, that's where we transcend. It's when we actually look at someone, touch someone, they're real, they're physical, they're connected to us, you know? And
Was that some of it then?
I think so. It was.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Makes me want to cry a little bit. I see. So the self is an artificial construct, and we can begin to diminish this by valuing other people and other people's needs as much as our own. It's in the Bible anyway.
Which we
Love
knew when
thy
we were
neighbour.
tribal, because we didn't even have such a sense of an individual I-self. We had more of a sense of a group self.
What, like a bunch of ants all scurrying about helping?
Well, like I heard a story about these people who were making a film about documenting about Australian Aboriginals, but they showed them a bunch of documentaries. They asked them how do they really want to be shown in the film, and they said they didn't want there to be any close-ups. They wanted the whole tribe to be visible in every frame.
That's beautiful.
You know?
That's beautiful.
Difficult challenge for the filmmaker, as the close-up
They
is
did
a
it, though.
necessary component of storytelling.
Well, maybe old storytelling. Maybe that's the old way of telling a story. You know?
We've got to do some changes, as Ziggy predicted.
Yes.
Yeah, so how do you guys see that culture could change over the next period to kind of reflect this new realization or understanding?
Have I got to say?
Go for it, yeah.
This new culture, I think that Eve should go first.
No, you go ahead, you're on it.
How's it going to reflect the changes? Well, I think that our last lot that already know this stuff have to sort of be cool and relaxed and be ready to protest in a relaxed way, recognise the causes that are in alignment with what we want, and so that we can coalesce, not get all bogged down in the same egotistical pitfalls that have befell our great heroes of the 60s. Me, for example, I'm very egotistical, so I'll always have a bit of a problem, because a little bit down the line I'll start to go, God, I look great being a hippie, and I'll get carried away with it. So if we have to police ourselves a little bit so that we don't sort of get all carried away, we don't be all wishy-washy and bullshit and like humourless, because that shit's boring. No one wants a revolution where everyone's going, hey man, I've made a vegan roast. We've got to be a little bit more the chaos of the trickster. Bring it.
Yeah,
Revolution is
I'm
sexy.
with that, absolutely.
So I think all just play our own individual roles,
Vaginas
coalesce,
alive.
subjugate the ego.
No, I totally agree. I think that every revolution we're talking about now in the future.
Did you say, what did you say?
I was saying vaginas. I mean, I was thinking about why. I was
read my mind.
No, but I was thinking about why did V-Day take off, right? Because it was about vaginas. It was about people thinking about sex. It was about people thinking about connection. It was about people, and it was so outrageously ridiculous that everybody started performing it in all these countries. It had the trickster in it. Abby Hoffman is like one of my favorite people of all.
My mother edited his first book, actually.
Oh, I love Abby
Revolution
Hoffman.
for the Hell.
Abby Hoffman was my like deep inspiration because he was wild and he was a clown and he was. It's why I love Russell so much. I feel like you don't know what's going to happen next. It's unexpected. You don't know. And I think that's when things change, when you're living in that quixotic place. You know?
Quixotic, like Don Quixote. He was all right, wasn't he, mind you?
Yeah.
He imagined everything. Mind you, we don't know that this frequency of reality is the ultimate reality. Oh yeah, imagination's okay then. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, listen, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate
It
it.
was good being on this programme, wasn't it?
This was
liked
fun.
it?
Oh, you're good, you're kind. And like,
thank you.
also what's nice is Daniel knows the answer to them questions and he still asks them.
I know.